Woman stops the divorce to save her marriage. With one word, I love you. Drums throbbed like a heartbeat in the village square of Olowo. The sun hung low, hot and bright, making every face shine. Elders sat in a half circle, their walking sticks planted like small trees in the sand. In the middle stood Kelechi, tall, proud, the best hunter in 3 towns, his jaw set like rock. Across from him was Amara, the weaver whose claws carried the colors of sunrise. Her hands shook, but her chin stayed lifted. Baba Obina, the chief elder, raised his staff. Today, he said, we end a marriage. A hush fell so deep even the birds went quiet. Amara stepped forward once. Her voice was soft but clear. Before you end it, let me speak. Just one word. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Kelechi's eyes narrowed. The elder paused, staff held in the air. Caught between duty and mercy, Amara drew a breath. And then the talking drum at the edge of the square rolled a warning beat, as if the ancestors themselves leaned closer to listen. Olowo was a place where the river sang before dawn, and the wind carried stories from farm to farm. In that place, Amara and Kelechi once walked like moon and star, 2 lights that guided others home. When they married, the entire village danced. The palm trees nodded. The night sky looked brighter, as if it blessed them. Kelechi hunted with quiet eyes and sure feet. He knew the secrets of forest paths and how to read the earth after rain. Amara's hands told their own stories on the loom. She could weave laughter into cloth, prayers into edges, and hope into the long lines that wrapped the body like a warm song. People saved money for months just to buy her cloth for weddings and naming ceremonies. But years have fingers, and sometimes they pull hearts apart without making a sound. It began with small things. Kelechi returned late from the forest, smelling of leaves and smoke. He set down his bow and wanted silence. Amara had spent the day weaving and wanted to talk. He thought she gave less respect than before. She thought he gave less care than before. They used to be 2 voices in a simple song. Now they were 2 drums beating different rhythms. When the goats ate Amara's dye leaves, Kelechi said, I told you to fence the garden. When Kelechi missed a hunt, Amara said, you no longer listen to the forest. He felt judged. She felt unseen. Days turned slow and heavy. Bowls of pepper soup cooled between them. Evening fires whispered where laughter used to dance. The space in their small home, once warm as fresh bread, turned cold around the edges. Families tried to help. Auntie Ifeoma said, marriage is a basket. You both must carry it. Uncle Chike said, a hunter and a weaver can make one roof strong, but only if they remember they share the same sky. The words fell, but nothing grew. Then came the worst day. A market woman told Kelechi she heard Amara laugh with a trader from a far town. Kelechi's pride rose like a wall. He came home with storm cloud eyes. You laugh with others, he said, but you bring me silence. Amara's hurt stung. You greet your beau more than you greet your wife. The words were sharp. They cut. When silence returned, it stayed. The elders called a meeting to mend the crack. They spoke of patience, kindness, and memory, but pride sat between Amara and Kelechi like a stubborn goat. Finally, Kelechi stood in the village square and said the words that made children clutch their mothers. I will no longer stay in a home where love has died. I seek a divorce. That night, while the moon climbed above the river, Amara went to the one person whose words still held reign, Mama Neka. People said her wisdom was older than the big Iroko tree and just as steady. Mama Neka stirred her clay pot and did not look up. My child, she said, you cannot fight anger with anger. You cannot heal pride with pride. Go home and speak the one word that breathes life where death has entered. What word? Amara whispered. The oldest one, Mama Neka replied. The one that made the world sing. Amara walked back through the sleeping village with that riddle in her heart. Morning came with a drum beat that called everyone to the square. News travels fast where the wind is a messenger. From farmers to fishermen, from grandmothers to newborns strapped on backs, the village gathered. The air felt tight, as if holding a breath it could not release. Amara stood beside the silk-wrapped staff of the elders and remembered the beginning. How Kelechi carved their names on the palm tree near the river. How he carried her loom on the day the rain surprised them, laughing as they ran home soaked and glowing. How they promised to be a roof over each other when sun burned and when rain fell. Tears filled her eyes, not from weakness, but from memory. She found her breath, slow and steady. Baba Obinna lifted his staff. The end was a heartbeat away. The elder's staff hovered. Kelechi stared straight ahead, face like stone, but his fingers twitched, as if fighting an invisible rope around his heart. Children peered from behind their mother's wrappers. The talking drum rattled one last warning roll. Amara stepped into the open circle. Before you end it, let me speak. Just one word. Baba Obinna lowered the staff a little. One word only, he said. If it is empty, we end this today. Amara turned to Kelechi and met his eyes she once knew better than her own reflection. Her lips parted. Her voice rose. And just as the word reached her tongue, a sudden wind rushed across the square, snapping cloth and tossing dust into the air. The staff tilted. Kelechi blinked. The whole village leaned forward to hear what Amara would say next. The dust swirled like a spirit come to witness. Children clung to their mother's legs. The drummers froze mid-beat. Even the river seemed to hush. Then, soft but steady, Amara spoke. Her lips trembled, yet her voice carried through the hot morning air like a gentle flute. Love, she said. It wasn't shouted, it wasn't cried, it was breathed. A word so simple it seemed too small to carry such weight. But something in the way she said it made the entire square feel it. Kelechi's hand dropped to his side. His chest rose once, sharply, as if the word had struck him harder than any spear. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Amara took another step toward him. Her eyes, wet but unafraid, stayed on his. When you hunted, I waited for the sound of your whistle. When you returned, I cooked your meal before the fire died. When you grew quiet, I thought I had failed you. But all this time, I forgot to say it. I forgot to say the one thing that built our home in the first place. Kelechi swallowed, his throat tight. The crowd murmured softly. Women pressing their palms to their chests, men glancing at one another with awe. Amara's voice broke. I still love you, Kelechi. The talking drum struck once, deep and hollow. It sounded like a heartbeat. Kelechi closed his eyes. His mind raced through the years. Their first harvest together, her laughter when he brought her a river pearl instead of flowers. The day she danced in the rain with no fear of the thunder. He remembered why he fell in love, and how pride had built a wall between them. He opened his eyes again. The wall was gone. Kelechi stepped forward. His voice, once rough and proud, came out low and shaking. Amara, I have been foolish. I thought strength meant never bending. I thought silence could prove I was right. But you, he paused, his lips trembling. You spoke the word I had forgotten. The chief elder lowered his staff completely. His voice carried like wind through palm leaves. The gods themselves have spoken through her. Where love is still alive, divorce cannot live. The crowd erupted in joy. Old women ululated. Young men lifted their hands. Children clapped and shouted, Nunya diya, di nunya ya. His wife's husband, her husband's wife. Kelechi fell to his knees before Amara. Head bowed, tears dropping into the dust. Forgive me, he whispered, for every night I chose pride over peace. Amara reached for his face, her hand trembling. Let the river carry away yesterday, she said. Let today begin again. The drums returned, this time fast, joyful, full of light. The villagers began to dance, singing blessings for their union reborn. As Kelechi rose and took Amara's hand, the wind that had stopped before began to blow softly again, brushing through her hair like a quiet applause. But deep among the crowd, a shadowed figure watched, one who was not smiling. And as the drum beats rose higher, the figure turned away, muttering, Love saved them today, but tomorrow they will need more than love. That night, Olowo was alive with song. The villagers danced around the fire, palm wine flowing like laughter. Amara and Kelechi sat close for the first time in months. Their hands brushed, shy but warm. It felt like home again. You still weave the most beautiful cloth in the village, Kelechi said quietly. Amara smiled. And you still return from the forest, smelling of wild leaves. For a moment, they laughed. But just beyond the firelight, a pair of eyes watched. It was Odogwu, Kelechi's hunting partner, bitter, jealous, and forgotten. Before the quarrels began, Kelechi had promised to make Odogwu the leader of their hunting circle. But when trouble came into Kelechi's marriage, the group broke apart. Odogwu blamed Amara for everything, believing she turned Kelechi into a weak man who abandoned the brotherhood. As the villagers sang, Odogwu clenched his fist around a calabash cup. "One word and the fool forgave her," he muttered. "Tomorrow he will forget his place again." At dawn, while mist still kissed the river, Kelechi prepared for a hunt. Amara stood by the doorway, her heart heavy with a strange unease. "The forest feels quiet today," she said. "Wait until the sun climbs higher." Kelechi chuckled and tied his quiver. "You worry too much. I have walked those paths all my life." Amara hesitated. "Then promise you'll return before nightfall." "I promise," he said, kissing her forehead. He left with Odogwu by his side, their spears glinting in the morning light. Hours passed. The sun rose high, then slipped low again. Amara's hands couldn't focus on the loom. Her heart drummed in her chest like the night before judgment. By sunset, villagers began to whisper. "Have they not returned?" someone asked. "Even the forest birds are quiet." Amara rushed toward the river trail, her feet bare, the hem of her wrapper brushing the red dust. Every sound made her turn. Every shadow looked like Kelechi's. Then she saw him. He stumbled out of the forest limping, blood streaked across his arm, his eyes wild. Behind him, no Odogwu. "Kelechi!" Amara cried, catching him before he fell. "What happened?" He tried to speak, but his throat was dry. "It was a trap," he gasped. "Odogwu, he tried to lead me into the ravine, said a deer was caught there, but when I bent down to check, I saw his knife. He wanted me dead." Amara's eyes widened in horror. "Dead? Why?" Kelechi looked toward the forest, his voice trembling. "He said love made me weak, that the village should not follow a man who bends before a woman." Tears spilled down Amara's cheeks as she held him. Behind them, the forest hissed with the wind, and from deep within the shadows came a faint laugh. Odogwu's, carried by the trees. Amara lifted her head sharply. "If he comes again," she whispered, her voice turning cold and firm, "I will be ready." The night that followed felt endless. The moonlight spilled across the compound, pale and quiet, but Amara couldn't sleep. Kelechi's wound had been cleaned by the healer, Mama Ebele, who muttered that envy could wound deeper than any spear. "He will come again," Amara whispered as she sat by Kelechi's mat, pressing a damp cloth to his arm. "I saw it in his eyes." Kelechi's voice was low. "Odogwu has lost himself. I pitied him. I called him brother once." Amara's eyes glistened. "Then let him see that love makes us stronger, not weaker." But even as she said it, fear crept into her chest like smoke. When the rooster cried, Kelechi insisted on standing. "I cannot hide in my home like a wounded animal," he said, gripping his spear. "If I stay silent, the story will change. People will say the hunter lost his courage." Amara blocked the doorway, her wrapper tied firmly. "You will not prove courage by running into danger again. The elders must know." He sighed, frustration carving lines across his face. A man must defend his honor. Amara placed her palm on his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "And a man must live to keep his promises. You said you'd come home before nightfall, remember?" Her words softened him. For a long moment they stood in silence, until a knock sounded at the door. It was Baba Obina, the chief elder. Behind him were two guards with torches and serious faces. "Amara, Kelechi," Baba Obina said gravely. "The forest speaks of blood. Hunters found Odogwu's spear near the ravine, but no body." Amara's throat tightened. "You mean he's alive?" The elder nodded slowly. "Perhaps, or perhaps something darker walks with him. We must prepare. Anger left to grow in shadow can turn to evil." That evening, thunder rolled far away like a drum warning the village. Mara lit a small fire and sat close beside her husband. "We will not let fear win," she said. "Love will keep our home safe." Kelechi smiled faintly, touching her cheek. "If not for you, I would have lost more than blood. I would have lost myself." Just then, a loud knock thundered through the compound. Kelechi stood, his spear ready. Amara's heartbeat raced. "Who is there?" he called. Silence, then footsteps, heavy, slow. Kelechi pushed the door open and froze. There, soaked from the rain, stood Odogwu. His eyes burned red from sleepless nights. His once proud stance had turned into a menacing shadow. "So," Odogwu hissed, "the hero lives. The woman saved him again. Tell me, Kelechi, how does it feel to be ruled by love?" Kelechi's grip tightened on his spear. "Go home, Odogwu. Whatever anger you carry, let it die here." But Odogwu stepped forward, rain dripping from his hair. "No, I will show the village that love is weakness, that it makes men crawl before women." Amara's voice cut through the tension. "No, Odogwu. Love is strength. It takes more courage to forgive than to fight," he sneered. "Then show me your courage, woman." Lightning flashed. The wind roared. Odogwu lunged, but Kelechi met him halfway, their spears clashing in a burst of sparks. The sound echoed through the compound like thunder. Amara screamed, grabbing the calabash of firewood beside her. "Stop this! You'll both die!" The struggle raged, blades ringing in the rain. Then Odogwu slipped. His foot caught on a stone, and his spear fell. Kelechi's spear stopped inches from his chest. For a moment, no one breathed. Odogwu looked up, waiting for death. But Kelechi lowered his weapon. "No," he said quietly. "You've taken enough. The forest will judge you." He turned away. But Amara stepped closer, her eyes on the broken man before her. "Do you know what saved us, Odogwu?" she said softly. "Not power, not pride. A word. Just one word." She leaned forward, her voice calm and steady through the storm. "Love." Odogwu's shoulders trembled. His eyes filled with something neither of them expected. Shame. Slowly he dropped to his knees, the rain washing down his face like tears. "I wanted to destroy what I had lost," he murmured. "But I see now. I lost it because I never understood it." By morning, Odogwu had left Olowo. No one knew where he went, only that the forest had swallowed him in silence. Kelechi and Amara sat by the fire again, their fingers intertwined. The air smelled of wet earth and new beginnings. "You faced him without fear," Kelechi said. Amara smiled faintly. "No, I was afraid. But love does not need fear to win. It only needs truth." He took her hand, pressing it to his heart. "Then let truth guide us forever." The first light of dawn touched their faces as the drums began to sound again in the distance, slow and deep, the rhythm of peace returning to Olowo. Yet as the sound echoed through the hills, a messenger came running with news from the next village, news that would test the very love that saved them. The morning after the storm was calm but strange. Mist floated above the fields, and the birds that usually sang at sunrise were quiet. Amara was at her loom when she heard hurried footsteps. The door burst open. A young messenger boy, panting hard, clutching a folded letter. "From the next village, my lady," he said. "It's from the Council of Umuez." Kelechi took the letter, his brow furrowing as he read. "They've accused me of theft," he said, his voice trembling. "They claim I stole an ivory tusk during last month's hunt." Amara gasped. "That's not true. Everyone knows you would never do such a thing." Kelechi's face darkened. "They say they have witnesses. Men who once hunted beside me." Amara's hands shook. She knew who those men were. Odogwu's old companions. It wasn't just revenge. It was a trap. "We'll go," she said. "You'll stand before their elders and tell the truth." By noon, the sun was fierce above Umuez. The people gathered in their square, larger, louder, more restless than Olowo's. Their chief, a tall man with white feathers tied to his staff, sat on a carved stool. Kelechi stood before him, spear at his side. Amara stood a few paces behind, her heart beating fast. A hunter named Duru stepped forward, voice sharp with malice. "We saw him that day," Duru said. "The tusk was in his sack. By night, it was gone." The crowd murmured. Kelechi's jaw tightened. "You lie," he said. "I carried nothing but traps and smoked meat." Duru smirked. "Your friend Odogwu told us the same, before he vanished into the forest." The chief raised his staff. "Silence," he commanded. Then turning to Kelechi, he asked, "What proof do you have?" Kelechi looked around. None of his hunters stood by him. Only Amara's eyes met his, full of unshaken faith. My proof, Kelechi said slowly, is the word of my wife. Gasps rippled through the crowd. It was rare, almost unheard of, for a man to call a woman as his witness. Amara stepped forward, steady but trembling. My husband speaks truth, she said. If you doubt him, doubt me too. For I have watched this man rise before dawn to hunt for our people. I have seen him share his meat with the widows, his water with strangers. His only wealth is his honor, and love does not lie. The chief studied her for a long moment. Then he said, if what you speak is true, may the gods prove it. But if you lie, your husband's fate will become your own. A hush fell. The drummers struck a slow rhythm as the chief lifted a bowl filled with sacred water. He whispered an ancient incantation. Let truth rise like smoke, he said, and let lies fall like ash. He poured the water onto the earth. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ground hissed. A small ivory tusk, half buried, pushed itself upward from the dirt where Duru stood. The crowd screamed. Duru stumbled back in terror. Baba Obina, who had come as witness from Olowo, raised his hands. The gods have spoken. The tusk was hidden by deceit. Kelechi is innocent. The drums thundered. Cheers filled the air. Amara turned to Kelechi, tears of joy streaming down her face. But Kelechi wasn't cheering. He was looking at her, eyes full of something deeper than gratitude. He took her hand. When the world doubted me, you spoke again, with the same word that saved us once. Amara smiled softly. It wasn't strength, Kelechi. It was love. When they returned home, the village gathered at the entrance, singing and throwing petals of hibiscus. The children danced. The elders clapped. Baba Obina placed his staff between them once more and said, before all who stand here, may this love never be tested by pride again. Kelechi looked at Amara. I thought love was a feeling, he said quietly. Now I know it's a choice we make every day. Amara touched his cheek, smiling through tears. And that choice begins with one word. He nodded. Say it again. She whispered it, the same word that had stopped a divorce, ended a battle, and silenced lies. I love you. The drummers began again, slow and steady like a heartbeat. The wind that carried her voice over the crowd seemed to bless the village once more. And for generations to come, when couples quarreled, the elders would smile and say, remember Amara's word, the word that saved a marriage and a man's soul. Thanks for watching. What's your view about this story? Where are you watching from? Do well to let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting stories. Stay blessed.